Yo, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday, November 30th, 2023, and welcome to an end of the month edition of what I like to call For the Birds. I am your host, the vegan you believe in, Kurt Cadet, aka Conscious Kurt in the flesh as always. And here on For the Birds, I'd like to talk about different forms of negative and toxic behavior, the effects that behavior has on us and our mental health, and what we can do to have a better understanding of it, have better control over it, in order to have a better quality of our lives going forward. I know I'm kind of a week late talking about this topic considering that Thanksgiving was last week, but I want to dabble into today about something I've been trying very hard to practice more of in recent years, and what I think more people should also practice more of in order to enjoy their lives and be happier in their lives. And that one thing I want to talk about today is gratitude. As I started going to therapy the last few years and kind of getting to know myself better and, trying to do better, one of the things I realized I needed to practice more of, and I've been seeing a big payoff from practicing more of, is always being grateful. Even if everything isn't 100% going my way, and even if my life isn't perfect, or if I'm not even 100% happy, I still do my very best to look for the good in every situation. I always try to appreciate the fact that I'm in relatively good health, I'm alive, I have a roof over my head, I have clothes on my back, all of my close friends and family members and loved ones are still alive and still in my life, and that I can walk, I can see, I can hear, because unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there in the world who don't have a lot of those things. And also, sadly, there are a lot of people who do have these things, but they fail to understand how lucky they are to have them. And the reason why is because in many cases, they are very ungrateful. Yeah, sadly, there's a lot of people, even if they're given everything, even if they have everything, even if they have little to nothing to complain about, they'll still complain anyway. They'll complain that they don't have this, that they don't have that their life should be better, that they deserve better. No matter what they have, no matter how much they're given, they will still find a reason to be ungrateful and still find a reason to bitch and complain. And admittedly, I was also guilty of this behavior, specifically when I was younger, my early teen years. I was always somebody who would complain a lot, who was ungrateful, who didn't appreciate what they had. And because I behaved that way, I was always unhappy. And the reason why many of you out there are super unhappy and super miserable is because you are too damn ungrateful. Instead of focusing on the things you do have and the things that you're lucky to have, you just focus and dwell on everything you don't have. And when you dwell on what you don't have, you focus on what you don't have and act like it's not fair that you don't have those things, it's not a surprise to see that you're so damn miserable and so damn unhappy all the time. But luckily for me, I learned that lesson a lot earlier, and especially over these last few years, I've worked very hard to practice gratitude as much as I can. And while my life isn't perfect, while things could be better, and while there are other things I do want to accomplish and want to have, I do understand and appreciate the things I'm lucky to have. And if you're somebody who has a problem with being grateful and being appreciative of what you have in your life, I'm going to break down for you today the reasons why that behavior is toxic, negative, and it sucks, and also what you can do to break out of it, practice gratitude more, and as a result, live a happier, more peaceful life. So what are some of the things that cause people to be super ungrateful, super unappreciative, and always be miserable and unhappy because of that? What are some of the things that cause this behavior? Well, one major thing that causes this behavior is a bad fucking attitude. I live by the motto that your attitude is something that could either make you or it could break you. And if you're somebody who always has a bad attitude, who's always in a bad mood, and who just always looks for something to complain about, then chances are the place that you're going to end up as a result is not a place that you're going to want to be. Yeah, because being ungrateful and being somebody who always complains about what they don't have and complains about the fact that they deserve more than they have, all that shit is rooted in having a bad attitude. When you're always in that kind of mood and it shows in the way you behave, don't be surprised when a lot of people aren't going to want to be around you. And that's the thing with people who have bad attitudes like that. The more they behave that way and the more they project that shit onto other people, the more people they're going to end up chasing away. Because any person who wants to be happy and who wants to be at peace does not want to be around somebody who always complains, who always bitches, who's always ungrateful, and who can never find anything good to say. Because I know from experience, I don't want to be around that shit. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, I hate being around that shit. I absolutely hate it. There's nothing more draining of your energy than being around somebody who's always ungrateful. And that ungratefulness, it all comes down to a person's attitude. When somebody always looks for the worst in people, when somebody always looks for the worst in every situation, somebody who's just always looking for a reason to complain, then it's clear to see they need a fucking attitude adjustment. For all the bad and negative traits one person can have, the worst trait they can have, and the worst trait that'll fuck up every part of their life, is always having a bad fucking attitude. Because your shitty attitude and your shitty mood isn't only going to bring down all the other people around you, most of all, it is going to bring you down. There's nothing good that comes from it. There's nothing positive that comes from it. You will not be happy from it. And until you learn that and until you wake the fuck up, then you won't ever be happy. Yeah, when people just can't find the good in anything, it's just clear that they have a fucking attitude problem. And until they fix that attitude and until they check themselves for that attitude, then their life is not going to get any better. And another thing that causes a lot of people to be super ungrateful and super unappreciative is being spoiled. When you're somebody who's born with a silver spoon in your mouth and who's given everything and who's promised everything, then that kind of treatment and that kind of lifestyle is normal to you. Somebody who grows up that way and was constantly treated that way doesn't understand what it's like to struggle, to go through hard times, and to sometimes not even know when your next meal is going to come from. And because they're given everything growing up and they're promised everything growing up, and the instances where they don't get what they want and they don't get their way, they don't know how to handle it. They complain, they throw a temper tantrum, they have a pity party, and they have this kind of mentality that just because they didn't get what they wanted just one time, that life isn't fair. And while it is true that life isn't fair, people like that are the last ones who should be complaining about that. If you're somebody who has a really nice car, but you're complaining that it's last year's model as opposed to this year's model, or if you're somebody who has like a nice mansion that has like 5 or 6 bedrooms, but you're complaining that it has 5 or 6 bedrooms and not 7 or 8 bedrooms, then you should consider yourself lucky that you even have those kind of problems. Because some people don't even have a car. Some people have to walk to work. Some people have to take the bus or take the train to work. And you're complaining because your car is from last year as opposed to this year? And also, there's a lot of people who don't even have their own homes to live in. Some people are homeless, living on the streets, or some people have to live with relatives and like live in uncomfortable conditions. And you're complaining that your house doesn't have enough bedrooms when it has more than plenty of bedrooms? The fuck's your problem? Yeah, because if you have a life where you're given everything and you have everything and you still can't be grateful and you still can't appreciate any of it, then straight up, you don't deserve any of it. And I'm telling you, there's many, many people out there who would probably deserve that shit more than you do, and more than anything, would appreciate that shit a lot more than you do. But because you're a spoiled little bitch who doesn't appreciate anything and who isn't grateful for anything, you're still unhappy even if you do have everything. And there's very few things that piss me off more than people like that. And finally, a big reason why people are super ungrateful and super unappreciative is because they always want more and nothing is ever good enough. This kind of ties into the point of being super spoiled that I talked about a few minutes ago. There are some people where even if they have everything, even if they're well taken care of, and even if they are in a good place in their life, for whatever reason, it is still not good enough. Instead of focusing on what they do have, they just focus on what they don't have. They focus on the places in their lives that aren't going their way. And even with everything they do have, which is probably more than the average person has, they still have the mentality that their life sucks. Because they don't have a certain career, because they don't have a certain lifestyle, because they don't have a certain person that they're dating. All of those things, because they don't have them, at least at this very moment, are reasons for them to be unhappy, be miserable, and be sad. And hey, I'm not saying it's wrong to want more for yourself, but the problem is when you're so focused and so consumed on those things that you do want and that you don't have yet, that you suck at appreciating the things that you already do have. Because when you always focus on what you don't have and you always focus on the things you think you deserve that you're not getting, you're always going to feel like you don't have enough. And it's sad, it really is. I'll use myself as an example. I would say when I was in high school, specifically back then, I'll admit I didn't have the best luck with women. And back then especially, it really drove me crazy. And it drove me so crazy that I was always depressed and I was always miserable and I was always stuck in my feelings because I didn't have a girlfriend. And I didn't have the same luck with women that a lot of my friends did and a lot of the popular kids did. And I spent so much time focusing on that and dwelling on that I didn't appreciate enough the good things in my life that I already did have. Like a good home, a mother who always came through for me, close friends who always had my back, going to a good school, having a job, getting to go out on the weekends, getting to have fun on the weekends, all that stuff. And while high school was still fun and I still did enjoy it overall, looking back at it now, I would have enjoyed it a lot more if I didn't dwell so much on the things that I didn't have. That being a girlfriend during that period. And hell, chances are I probably would have had a better chance at finding one back then if I didn't stress it so much and if I didn't let it get me so depressed so much. And that's one lesson I've taken with me as I've gotten older, where even if things aren't perfect, even if things aren't exactly the way I want them to be, there are still other good things that are worth being grateful for. But if you spend so much time focusing on the things you want and the things that you don't have yet, and always having the attitude that it's not fair that you don't have those things, then you're always going to miss out on the things that you already do have. And I'm telling you, those things you already do have are things you should not take for granted. Because sadly for many people, you don't know what you have until you no longer have it. And And I'm grateful at this stage in my life, I'm able to understand and realize that being ungrateful shit, that always complaining shit, that always focusing on what you don't have shit, all that shit is for the birds. And until more of you realize that and start practicing gratitude in your lives more, that no matter what you get in life and no matter what you obtain in life that you want so badly, it will never be enough. So now that I've talked about the different things that cause people to be ungrateful and unappreciative, what are some of the ways that people can practice gratitude more and practice being grateful a lot more? Well, one of the things they can do that would be a big help is to stop being so self-absorbed. One of the main things that causes people to be so ungrateful and so unappreciative of what they have is having the attitude that the whole world revolves around them. And that kind of attitude and mentality is rooted in both selfishness and rooted in ego. But if you can find the strength to break out of this mentality, strip yourself of that mentality, and understand that the world does not revolve around you and that there's other people in the world besides yourself, then it'll be easier for you to understand that in reality, you don't really have it so bad. Granted, things could be better. Granted, things aren't perfect. But in the grand scheme of things, you're not really in that bad of a place. Yeah, because sadly, the people that are the most ungrateful and the most unappreciative are the ones who only think about themselves. And if you could stop thinking so much about yourself and maybe think about others for a change, you'll be better at understanding how fortunate you really are. Because if you can allow yourself to consider other people, think of other people, and think of the struggles that other people go through, then you'll realize how ridiculous you look, always being so damn ungrateful. Yeah, because like I said a few minutes ago, a lot of people out there really have it bad. And when you take that into consideration, the next time you're about to complain about something that you don't have, then you'll start to see that what you're complaining about is not as big of a deal as you make it out to be. That first step to practicing gratitude, that first step to being grateful and appreciative of the things you have, is to stop thinking so much about yourself. And if you can practice more of this, I promise you, you will be a lot happier, and overall, you'll be a much better person and a much more likable person in the process. And another way people can practice being more grateful and practice gratitude a lot more is by always saying thank you. I'm sure one of the things our parents taught us when we were younger is to always say thank you when somebody does something for us. But sadly, a lot of people as they got older forgot that lesson that their parents taught them. And in some cases, maybe their parents didn't teach them that. And as a result, they grew up to be adults who can't say thank you and who won't ever say thank you. And as somebody who's worked in the service industry for years, that is one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to people. Whether you're holding open a door for someone, doing them a favor, or getting them a nice present, if they can't ever bring themselves to ever say thank you, that is not a good look. And that's a clear sign that they were either not raised right, or if they were raised right, they just decided to forget all that shit. And if you're somebody who goes through life behaving that way, then I mean this when I say this, you're a fucking asshole. An ungrateful, unappreciative, unlikable asshole. But if you can be somebody who can say thank you when somebody does something nice for them, when somebody comes through for them, then that shows that you appreciate them and you appreciate whatever they did for you. Because in some cases, they don't have to do those things for you. But if they do choose to do those things for you and come through for you, saying thank you is the least that you can do. And in reality, just saying the words thank you is not that fucking hard. It takes 2 seconds, it's super quick, and the person you say thank you to will really appreciate you saying that to them. Sadly, with a lot of entitlement that I see going around today, people forget to say thank you for the things other people do for them because of the fact that they think that they're already owed those things. But as I said several episodes ago when I did the episode about entitlement in relationships, there are certain things that you are not entitled to. And if you do happen to get those things, and if somebody happens to do those things for you, your ass better say thank you for it. Because by saying thank you, you are practicing gratitude and you are practicing appreciation. And when you're able to practice more of those things in your life, you will truly see how fortunate and how lucky you really are. And when you focus more on that, then you'll only have more things to be thankful for, and also more things to say thank you for. And lastly, a major way people can practice gratitude and practice appreciation a lot more is by understanding that things can always be a lot worse. I know in life many of us have our ups and downs, and there are certain times where we might not be happy with where we are in our lives and we might not be happy with the way things are going. But even in those times, it is super important to understand that your situation could be a lot worse than it is right now. I get that parts of it are unpleasant. I get that parts of it aren't ideal by any stretch. But even through all of that negativity and even through all that bullshit, there is still something you can find to be appreciative of. No matter how bad you may think you have it, no matter how bad things may be for you, there is always someone who's going through it a lot worse. While you may not be super happy with maybe the apartment you live in or the job you have, there are other people out there who don't even have a place to live, who don't even have their own apartment. And there are other people out there who are unemployed, who don't have any money, who are dirt poor. And I get it, you want better for yourself, you want more for yourself, I understand that. But by realizing that you're fortunate to not be in the position that those other people I mentioned are in, your situation won't seem so bad as you make it out to be. While that apartment might not be the best apartment, and that job might not be the best job, or that car you drive might not be the best car, at least you have those things. And like I said a few minutes ago, sadly, a lot of people don't have those things. And a lot of people in that sense are a lot worse off than you are. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more for yourself and wanting to obtain more. But understanding that process of obtaining more and wanting more, don't forget to appreciate the life you already do have. Because while it might not be perfect, and while there may be parts of it that you want to change, there is still some good that you can find in it, and there are still things about it that you can be thankful for. No matter how small, no matter how big those things are, you can still find those things within them to be appreciative of. And if you can focus more on that and focus more on what you do have as opposed to always focusing on what you don't have, then you'll see that you're already blessed, that you already have it good, and that while life can be better, it's still pretty damn good regardless. So I'm telling you, if you adopt more of that attitude and you stop focusing so much on the things in your life that you don't have or that are not going your way, then instead of chasing happiness and thinking that it's eluding you, you'll see that you already have more than enough to be happy about. So my final thoughts on this whole topic are this. If you're somebody who always focuses on what you don't have, focuses on your problems, and always focuses on how things should be better and could be better, then nothing's ever going to be enough. No matter how much you have, no matter how much you gain, no matter how big of a mansion you live in or nice of a car you drive or whatever it is, nothing will ever be enough as long as you're always focusing on what's not there. And when nothing is ever enough and nothing is ever good enough, then you're not going to be happy. You're always going to be miserable. You're always going to be in a bad mood. You're always going to be a miserable person to be around. And that kind of way of living, that kind of mentality is nowheresville. Never being able to show gratitude, never being able to say thank you, and never being able to appreciate anything you have is cheating yourself out of the good in life. Because I could say from experience, ever since I started practicing gratitude more and focusing on the things that I have a lot more as opposed to the things that I don't have, it made all the difference in my life. I've noticed that I've been a happier person. I've noticed I've been a more pleasant person. And I've been a person more people want to be around more because of that pleasantness. And overall, I've just realized how fortunate and lucky I really am. And look, there are things in my life I would like to see improve. There are parts of my life that I'm not 100% happy with. I'll be the first to admit that. But even through all that, I can still find things to appreciate about my life. Being alive, being healthy, being able to walk, being able to hear, being able to see, having close friends and close family that are still alive and still in my life, having a roof over my head, having a job, being able to work out, and even being able to do this podcast every week. The more I've been able to focus on my blessings and count my blessings, the more blessings I've been able to have in the process. And more of you would be doing yourselves a favor and bettering your lives as a whole if you would practice more of that kind of gratitude. Just thinking of 5 simple things in your life that you're grateful for can make all the difference in your mood. If you could just take the time to focus on those things as opposed to the things that you don't have, that you wish you had, that you think you deserve, you will be in a much better place. Because the last type of person you want to end up as is somebody who's older, who's super bitter, who's super negative, who's super ungrateful, and who just always complains about their problems and always focuses on their problems. That is not the place, that is not the destination that you ever want to end up in. But if you're somebody who grows older to see how lucky they were to live the life that they did and how lucky they are to still be alive and have the life that they have now, then that's the type of place I would refer to as heaven on earth. Because heaven and peace is all in what you make of it. And by choosing to be somebody who always says thank you, who's always grateful, and who counts their blessings more than they count their problems, then you are someone who is living their life to its full potential. Well, that's all the time I have for you guys here today on For the Birds. And like I said before, I'm not a licensed doctor or a therapist, but I do have a lot of experience in my personal life going through these issues. So I like to use this podcast as a platform and helping others and getting to those issues a lot easier than I did. And if you ever want to talk to me or chop it up with me in any way, you can follow me on my various social media pages such as Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. For Instagram, you could look up my name, Conscious Kurt. For Facebook and LinkedIn, you could look up my first and last name, Kurt Cadet. Send me a message, send me a friend request. I would love to chop it up with you in any way. And also, if you want to listen to past episodes of the podcast, including this one, you can find it on Spotify, Spreaker, or YouTube. Look up the name For the Birds and follow the page, subscribe to it, leave comments under the episodes and let me know what you think about them. And also send me suggestions on other issues you would like me to talk about in further episodes that also you think are for the birds. And for a long time to come, I will be here talking about different forms of negative and toxic behavior, the effects it has on us and our mental health, and what we can do to have a better understanding of it and more control over it in order to have a better quality of our lives in the future. So until next time, this is Conscious Kurt for another edition of For the Birds. Take care, have a good one, and remember, don't be an asshole in real life or social media, because that shit is for the birds. Have a good one, guys.